so that the Muslim clearly understand what his actions should be when he comes to Medina and wants to visit the mosque of the Prophet. We shall present the etiquette of visiting that mosque. When the person enters the mosque, he should enter with his right foot and say, "In the name of Allah, and peace be upon the Messenger of Allah. O Allah, forgive me my sins and open for me the doors of your mercy." Or he should say, "I seek refuge in Allah the Great and in His noble face and His ancient rule from the accursed Satan." Then he should pray a 2 rak'ah prayer of greeting the mosque before he sits. He must be careful to avoid facing the direction of the noble grave while praying, or facing it while supplicating. Then he goes to the noble grave to convey the salutations to the Prophet. He must avoid putting his hand on his chest, bowing his head, or doing any act of humility that Allah alone deserves. He must avoid seeking help in the Prophet as well. He should greet the Prophet with the words and expressions that the Prophet used to use when greeting the inhabitants of Al-Baqi cemetery. Various phrases have been authentically reported from the Prophet, including "Peace be upon the inhabitants of these places" from the believers and the Muslims. "May Allah have mercy on those who preceded us and those who will come after. Allah willing, we shall be joining you." One should also greet the Prophet's 2 companions, Abu Bakr and Umar, who are also buried there, with the same expressions. It is not proper etiquette to raise one's voice in the mosque or at the grave of the Prophet. Etiquette with respect to the Prophet it is Prophet is the same while he is dead as it was when he was alive. The person should try to pray in the first rows of the congregation, as there are great virtues and rewards in that. His desire to pray in the garden between what was the Prophet's house and his pulpit should not make him stay back from praying in the first rows. There is no special merit in praying in the garden that distinguishes it from any other prayer. It is not from the sunnah to try to pray 40 consecutive prayers in the Prophet's mosque. This practice is based on a popular hadith which states, "Whoever prays 40 prayers in my mosque without missing a prayer will have written for him freedom from the fire." Rescue from the punishment and freedom from hypocrisy. This hadith is weak and not authentic. It is not sanctioned to continually go back to the Prophet's grave to greet him. In reality, the salutations for the Prophet reach him wherever the person may be, even if he is at the end of the earth. Such a person and a person standing in front of the grave are the same with respect to receiving rewards for greeting and praying for the Prophet. When the person leaves the mosque, he should not leave by walking backwards, as some people do, in order not to turn their backs to the Prophet's grave. Instead, he should step first with his left foot and say, "In the name of Allah, and peace be upon the Messenger of Allah, O Allah, forgive me my sins and open for me the doors of your bounty." It is sunnah for one who comes to Medina to visit Masjid Quba and pray there, following the example set by the Messenger of Allah, as he would regularly visit it. Walking or riding, he would visit it on Saturdays and pray 2 rakahs therein.